Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us at our webinar, A New Direction for Southampton, with the new leader of Southampton City Council, Councillor Daniel Fitzhenry. Welcome, Councillor Fitzhenry. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Marlies. Good to see you. Thanks very much for inviting me, and hello to everybody listening.
Thank you. We are very keen to hear from you and from yourself, sort of what sort of exciting plans your Conservative administration has for the city. We will be we'll be talking about that a little bit, and then we'll be going through questions that our attendees are putting to us. Everyone, please ask the leader any question you have through the Q&A button that you can find at the bottom of your screen, and we will go through as many as we can, as many as we have time for this afternoon. We have an hour. This session will be recorded, and for those who cannot join us right at this minute, we will be putting the session up online at a later point on our Creators website. So for those of you who don't know us, Creators is a communications agency with a strong focus on local government. My name is Marlies Koudstaal, and I'm a director in the Southampton office. So let's get going. So Councillor Fitzhenry, in our call that we had a little bit earlier to discuss our session today, you were saying that you were planning on throwing a love bomb on the city. Now, we're very interested in understanding what that means. Is that part of your Get Southampton Going Again campaign, perhaps?
Yeah, thanks, Marlies. Well, yeah, it absolutely is. You know, we have been through as a city and as a country the last 16, 18 months, a very, very difficult period. And although we're emerging, Prime Minister will outline later today what that looks like next week, we still will be facing COVID and in some way, shape or form for some period of time. So our agenda very much about getting Southampton moving is utilising all of the difficulties that we faced during the pandemic, bringing them to the forefront and saying, this is our moment for this city. You know, we've been through an awful lot in the last 18 months. We've been on a journey that we as an administration were part of last time we were running the council, and the previous Labour administration had built on, and we want to now turbocharge that. We want to light the flame underneath this beacon and let it burn. And it is about saying to people, you know, we are here for you. So the government has supported us through COVID. Now, in our opinion, it's about the council supporting people locally, using our own resources, taking tough decisions and risk, and really getting this city moving, investing in the fabric, creating the belief, the dynamism, the energy, the faith, the ideas, and unlocking all of that to move us forward. And as a council, what we're really good at is creating that environment to create or to deliver the long-term vision of a city of opportunity. But what the public and wider private sector, third sector partners are really good at is doing the delivery piece. So if we all come together, we know where we're going, we know what we want, we put our energy into doing it, let's crack on and do it. And that's what Get Southampton Moving is all about.
So that's great. And in terms of course, coming out of COVID, it's been a very, very challenging time for councils up and down the country. The BBC reported earlier in the week or over the weekend that councils are facing a 3 billion financial black hole due to the COVID pandemic. How is Southampton looking financially?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So we have got a gap in our budget for next year, and we've added some new pressures of things we think that are important to deliver on our manifesto commitments. So we've got a gap. I think that the key thing I would say is over the last 18 months, this country globally, we've inherited, so we've not inherited, wrong word, we've come into a situation that nobody would ever believe you could ever get through. So in March the 10th, 2020, if somebody said, you know, by the end of the month, you're going to be locked at home and the economy is going to spend 350, 400 billion this year of money that it doesn't have in a deficit, and we're still going to come at it the other side, and we're still going to be doing ABC. We'd have all gone, well, really? And we got through that. So we've got some financial challenges, but what we've said is we are going to commit to our expenditures to get this city back moving. We invest in the next 18, 24 months of the fabric of this city. We then put it on a platform that as we come out of this scenario, we can create more business opportunity, more council tax, more business rates, more income that takes the city on a long-term journey. So this is an investment from the council now into the city as we come out in our hour of need to get moving, so that that investment yields crop and fruit further down the line. That does put us under some pressure, but we've got a plan around looking at how we're spending money, who we can partner with, what are the council's priorities. We've also got, we're not where we were 10 years ago in austerity. There is a lot of government money flowing around. We had hundreds of millions of pounds collectively during COVID come through the council coffers for the city to be spent on different things. And we've got to use that money wisely. It will be challenging. There probably will be tough decisions to make, but actually this is our chance to go for it. And we believe our job is to be at the forefront of that, to lead from the front, to invest in this city, to get it moving. And then we can say to everyone else, come on the journey too, and let's go do it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And in terms of your first step, so you're 8 weeks in, you were saying earlier, and what were the first steps that you have undertaken on this journey?
Yeah, a couple of controversial ones. Within a couple of weeks of being in, we were reopening some of the temporary bus lanes into back to traffic, because data showed that they were having an adverse effect on air pollution and traffic movements. So that was, controversial to some extent. But more importantly, in the last 8 weeks, what we've spent our time doing, as well as removing, the temporary bus lanes and opening up roads, is sending a message to the city of, this is our corporate plan. And we've just signed off our corporate plan and budget last week, which is about investing in the place, our parks, open spaces, our monuments, our heritage, and really, it's about 30 million of additional investment in the last 8 weeks we've allocated into our next 2 years plan. We've signed all of that off. It goes through the formal democracy process over the next 9 days, and then becomes policy. And then we've got a 2 years delivering on our parking spaces, as I say, investing in £10 million in extra road repairs, 800,000 in pothole repairs, nearly 10 million in public realm improvements into our monuments, our vaults, and to our heritage assets, our historic parks, Mayflower Park, Western Shore, all these sorts of places that we hold deep in our heart as a city. But what I can really say, Marley, is our plan is about get Southampton moving. So this is about taking our city and putting it on a global scale and saying to people, we're open for business, our Freeport opportunity, our City of Culture journey, our UNICEF City of child-friendly city gives us a unique selling point to say to the world, come here, invest here, live here, work here, play here, whatever you wish to do. Bring your money here, and let's get going together. And that's who we see as our audience. So we're building that narrative. We're putting our money into investment. We're taking risk, which is sometimes a little bit more risky when you're in public sector than the private sector. And we want to get moving. And the flip side is that we'll say to our partners, that's our bit. Come on the journey too.
Yeah, no, that's very positive. I was wondering though, because I've seen that you are working on a quite a large scale highways plan, and many aspects to do with that, from plugging the potholes and sorting those out to extra car parking spaces and all the rest of it. How does that actually sit with the green city side of things and the improvement of the air quality? That I think also a council objective.
Yeah, very fair question. So if we look at our city, we did some sampling of retail spend. So it's anecdotal, but we got this. 50% of the retail spend coming into this city is coming in from outside of it. So people are coming into this city for retail, hospitality, work, whatever else, and the majority of those people are coming by private car. So our plan has been very much that if we want to deliver our housing objectives to 2040, our 28,000 units now to 2040, if we want to deliver this growth, in our opinion, we need to do something a little bit more radical than thinking just a couple of cycle lanes and bus lanes and tweaking a few roads is going to stack it, because it's not. You cannot get that mass movement of people and investment by just having a small provision. So controversially, because it looks like we're to some perhaps we're abandoning all those, but what we're saying is water taxis, buses, electric buses, walking, cycling, good quality roads, good quality pavements for proper walking, but more importantly, mass transit of some form, rail, tram, or proper park and ride. All those things together give us a platform for growth. So what we're doing is going, right, okay, immediately, what can we do right now? Investing in electric vehicles, charging points across our estates. So anyone who lives in our council estates that wants to charge an electric vehicle can't, because the council's the landowner and there's no provision really there. So when we put in new parking spaces, which is about improving the areas that people live. At the moment, there's just mud barren areas. We own the land, and you look at these mud barren things, people get stuck in the winter, they're getting roused with their neighbours because they've got nowhere, that's not creating a nice environment for people to live in. So by putting in new spaces, we tidy up the area, but we can also put in electric vehicle charging points to encourage people to use that. And what we can also do is start to restore some pride in communities and plant some nice trees and plants around some of these areas. If you look at some of our other public highway investments, repairing the potholes and smoothing the roads is also good for cyclists and pedestrians. So investing in pavement repairs is about allowing people to walk more and encouraging them to do this. So there's a whole plethora of different things. In our opinion, though, Marlies, the council was going down a little bit of a one-minded view of thinking, rightly in the right intentions, that cycling and perhaps walking and buses was the only solution. And what we're trying to do is balance that out and say, look, we need a mixed economy here. We're a massively retail-based city. People come here for lots of different things. They need to be able to get here. And if they can't get here, the 7,800 people that are still on furlough at the end of May might not have a job to come back to. And that is not a risk that we're prepared to take.
Yeah. See that. But you mentioned a tram and electric buses and things. Are we going to be seeing lots of changes to the public transport in the city with an overhaul, or what are you planning?
Yeah, so the government has announced, obviously, some changes to the formation of Great British Railways, which will allow us some new partnerships with the train companies. There is an emerging government policy around bus partnerships, which are much greater integration between private sector bus operators and the local authority. So we'll be following those through, which would allow much more cross operator ticketing, integrated ticketing with different public transport bodies. So we'll be following through on those. Electric vehicle for buses is something that we're pursuing as well. So there's a whole range of stuff. Water taxis is think of the great opportunity. City of Culture, water. Where can you go in the UK that has a water taxi like we could have here? And I'm chucking ideas because we're working through them, and many of these conversations have been had already, but not come to fruition. Hive, Fawley Waterside, Woolston, Ocean Village, Town Quay. Imagine moving around there. We're working through it. We're not sure how it's going to work yet, but those would be great ideas for our city and as an added value. And then trains. We've got 8 train stations. We've got an international cruise port where people come via train. How could we link the trains up to have a more frequent service? How can we make our train stations like the Central Station? So we're exploring how we really significantly improve the Central Station interchange with National Express and buses. So all these things are on the cards. We're working through them right now. And in fairness, a lot of them were previous plans that we're trying to enhance and make more effective. But our transport agenda is very much about a mixed bag. There is no way on the planet we're going to be saying to people, if you want to come by car, you can't come here. If you want to come by car, you can absolutely come to our city. Of course, we would love you to come by other mechanisms, but getting our city back on its feet is paramount. And transitioning to the low carbon economy, to net carbon zero, is still a 29-year journey, net carbon zero 2050. And we need to take it slowly, we need to take people with us, and we need to provide alternatives before we shut off options, in our opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. And well, you're saying about 28,000 houses, new homes by 2040. Changes to local transport, other things. That will need a lot of work from the investment industry and the development industry. And I've got a question here about what would you like to see from development partners and the development industry? How would you like to work with the sector to make the city the best it can possibly be?
Thank you. Well, if we take this city of opportunity as our vision, that's what we brand ourselves. And the city of opportunity is about how you take difficulties like the pandemic, and the net carbon zero agenda is a challenge, but in every great challenge is the greatest opportunities. And we've got two of them sat on our radar right now, climate crisis and post-COVID situation. So I would like to see our relationship with the development sector, with the business sector, with the private sector, and any other partner as we've got a ton of problems, but we know where we want to take our city. How collectively do we use what we're really good at as a local authority and the private sector is really good at to deliver a world-class city? Excuse me. And so, if we look at those 28,000 housing units, how do we make them really highly sustainable? How do we use our planning policy to create a tall building zone, which we're looking at doing? How do we make our waterfront world-class with perhaps tall building zone and residential? And again, these are just ideas that we're working through at the minute. How do we make Southampton a great gateway visually as well as operationally that it is to the world, using the Freeport opportunity? How do we use Freeport as a mechanism to be a pioneer for the green economy, given that, again, we're gateway to UK PLC from abroad and 90% plus of UK products that are imported come via the sea. So we're a huge gateway to that. So our private sector partners, current and new, who we don't know yet and haven't met yet, we're really open to say, look, this is where we want to go, and we'll map more of that out. How do you want to fit and play with us? Because we want you, frankly, we want your ideas and your money and your opportunities to come here because we want to work with you to make this happen. So that's what we're working through at the minute, and I can't be too specific because we're at philosophical stage at the minute as we map this out. But what I would say to people is, if you want to invest and develop in a city that wants to be at the forefront, then this is the place to be. And this is our moment as a city. The next 3, 5, 10 years, Freeport, City of Culture, UNICEF child-friendly city, but just a whole host of other things. You walk around and you go, this place is a gold mine waiting to be untapped. Multiple gold mines all together, and we really want to untap that, and we cannot untap that without the help of the private sector and partners who I no doubt are listening in right now. Yeah. What that looks like, though, Marley, we'll develop out, but the principle is open door policy, open for business, get Southampton moving.
Brilliant. So in terms of the Freeport, obviously that's a major boost to the region. Not only Southampton, but the whole Solent region hopefully will be boosted by that. But what are your main? What is that you hope for in terms of? Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that if you combine the Freeport with the City of Culture bid, and you drill all this down and you go, what is it that creates business? Well, in my opinion, business is created by relationships, by people going, I've got a problem and someone else has got a solution. But if those two people don't get on, those two things can't gel. But if you've got really solid, good understanding relationships and you've got problems and solutions, opportunity comes from that. What our Freeport with our City of Culture bid allows us to do is go, we've got the tax and the customs and the geographical location and the port and all those operational things to make Freeport a success. But what the City of Culture piece does is say, how do we build new partnerships and relationships with parts of the world, India, the US, to really drive people here and say people are right at the forefront of this. So culture is an understanding piece to develop stronger relationships, to solve greater problems, to create more wealth, to create more tax, to create more GDP, to pay for the services that people in the city need and to keep the cycle moving on. So I really see us not only having a leading Freeport, but combining the City of Culture piece bid process, which we're expression of interest stage this week, and we'll know who the winner is in May 2022, hopefully it's Southampton. is a huge opportunity because it puts us on a global map of city of culture. It opens a gateway to new inward investment, but it also opens a gateway to greater understanding of people, which then spark new opportunities. And if we take those specifically, the green economy, we know we're going to 2050, but nobody really knows what that journey and what those opportunities are. How do we solve the residential housing energy usage challenge? We've got 16,000 units as a council. We don't know how to make all those net carbon zero. We don't know whether we can or can't yet. And there are a number of objectives set where companies and government go, we don't know how to get there, but we know we want to get there. But it kind of comes back to the same thing I think JFK said in the 60s, we want to go to the moon by 70. Nobody knew how, but they did it because that was their intention. So if we really take this properly, we want to take our city on a great journey. We kind of know what that looks like, but we don't know all the hows. The Freeport, city of culture, business investment, all of that stimulates those creative ideas to go, let's try this, let's play with this, let's create an environment where this happens. And then what that means for our residents is they get to be part of that. So, people who have never started a business before, have always done the same jobs, whose job might be lost due to technology because of COVID and transitional change, suddenly have a place in a new world to have a new opportunity to do something. But more importantly is that ideas and people create opportunity. And we historically were a very wealthy city. We were a very wealthy, modern, pioneering city. And because of the war and difficulties, we've got our social challenges. But this is a gateway to lifting some people out of the challenges that they face. Poverty, social challenges, addictions, all of these sort of things that we deal with day in, day out. If we can lift somebody in one part of their life by giving them a new chance, we can lift them in all parts of their life. And City of Culture, Freeport, and all of these things together give us a unique opportunity to do that.
That's great. And then, of course, a question here that's linked to that in the sense that to grasp the opportunities to the max, I suppose, especially young people, they need skills and they need training and they need education to boost their own lives as well. So what are your plans for them? How can they, especially those that tend to get left behind, also in terms of COVID, but what are your ideas in terms of skills and training?
Yeah, a very great point. And we know, like I said, 7,800 people at the end of May were on furlough in this city. From this month, tapering starts, which means obviously some of those people will be going back to work or they won't have a job to go back to. And so some of them will be young, some of them will be older. And that's just what's in the workforce now. And then we've got people coming through as well. So this is a real challenge. I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what I do see is what we've got to be able to do is help people who are newly coming into the workspace, who may go, I don't have an academic capability, or I do, and now I don't have a job to go to because the job's been deleted because of COVID and technology. But what we need to be able to do is help them either transition into starting a business, if that's what they want to do, or using their skills in a way that they didn't know they could. And the best way to do that is to take people who've done what they're trying to do and show them that it's possible. So there's some great startups that have come out of COVID and pre-COVID that have survived COVID and really flourished. And one of the bits of work that I want to do is about how we exemplify those startups and say, look, young people starting businesses pre-COVID, COVID hit, oh my God, how are we going to do this? Now they're flourishing. Equally, people who have lost their job during COVID come out, set up a business, maybe selling their skills. So, but that's quite niche. I think what we need to do to people who are going to lose their jobs or are coming through the system that job might not exist for that which they train for, the state's got to intervene and go, how do we help you back into work in some way, shape or form, or help you do something whilst you're on the journey back to work. And that's where we need to be much more community focused in what we're trying to do. So that's why a lot of our stuff is going into the communities and places that people work. So apprenticeships is massively important in that. Ensuring the money we spend goes through the local economy and we're recruiting people locally is significant. But we're also going to have a lot of hard conversations with ourselves, I think. Us and the wider audience. We've got people with great skills, but we haven't got demand for their skills yet. How do we solve that gap? So there will be a lot of moments where we go, I'm not sure of the ideas, but collectively, we'll come up with them. And if we keep on that journey, we'll take ourselves ahead of the curve. We're not going to stop people hitting a cliff, unfortunately, because that's going to be really difficult. But I do believe collectively we can start to solve some of those. And training and development through our skills and our colleges will be crucial, and is our top priority for education in this city, is to get our post-16s institutions into a place where they really can see market gaps, have people coming through the system, and then really plug into them very quickly. Adaptability will then be crucial. But we've got to play a facilitating role, and then everyone else has to sort of work around that to enable it to happen as well.
Thank you. And in terms of, Southampton has 2 universities, and of course, lots of people graduating from university will be looking for a job either in the city or in the region. In terms of, you have 28, as you said, you have 28,000 houses to build in the coming decades. What in terms of starters and finding a space for young people to live, what have you got in mind for them to be able to hold on to that talent?
Yeah, absolutely. And so if we look at what those 28, let's say 30,000 for nice round numbers,
yeah,
what's a couple of thousand homes amongst friends? What we've got to do is go, what is the need? So we in that 30,000 homes, some of them will be simply build to rent type model, where people go, I just want to rent on a short-term contract or a year's contract. I don't want to manage it. They've got the money to do it. Other people, the council will have to intervene on providing council housing so that they can afford to do it, because we can charge rent that the private and other public sector partners can't do. We will also be looking at shared ownership and shared equity models, key worker models, private for sale, obviously, and then a whole plethora of different housing opportunities. And then as you move to the other end of the spectrum, where you've got older people who are retiring stroke have needs, who are living in bigger properties, both public and private, how do we build facilities that are city centre based or locally based to amenities for them, so that they can have better lives and they can free up the housing stock for people to move back through the system. So there's quite a lot that we need to do there to encourage people to stay from the universities. We need to create an entrepreneurial environment for them to maybe start a business, or great opportunities for them to enjoy their life as an employee stroke subcontractor, if that's what they wish to do. And I think we're on that. We're always, London is London. It's an hour and 20 minutes away, and actually you need to be there less now to have a job there than you did pre the pandemic. So although some people will be staying here who used to commute there, you can flip the argument the same way. If you don't need to be there as much in order to be employed there as you may well have been done before. We've just got to sell our strengths. We're a marine-based, ambitious, visionary city by the water with tons of heritage, 2 national parks, international seaport, connections to London, airport flying to Europe, which we are wholeheartedly behind the expansion or the extension of the runway, and pioneering in being technologies for short-haul, environmentally friendly flights. We've got to fly those. We cannot compete with London-esque, but we can offer so much more. And that's where we put our focus in, to say, come here. And I also think, Marley's, and some of the audience will probably see this as well, somewhere like Southampton, as I said, we're a goldmine opportunity. And when you look at opportunity and you look at a page, most of it's not mapped out. You've got to be able to see the bits that aren't mapped out. Some people go, it's not for me. It's too, I need something more fixed or more concrete. If you're budding and you want to take some risk and you're not sure what that's going to map like, or you want to create it into how you want it to be, then here's the place to be.
So do you see opportunities for some higher density building, and perhaps also mixed use in terms of putting different uses together, residential as well as business hubs where people can work flexibly, retirement living maybe even put into the mix. How does your vision for the city centre, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, and you're quite right, so height and density will be a policy change that we'll be making. So we've been advising our planning policy team that we'll be making that. We want to go higher, we want to have more density, we want to have more mixed use in the city centre and districts. we need to be mindful as you move out of the city centre that the height and density is much different. But mainly, if we look at the city centre and then we drill into parts of the city centre and go, this could be a tall building zone. Tall is not 5 stories or 10 stories. Tall is tall, 15, 20, 25, 30 is what we're thinking. And then how do we make, what a great accolade Southampton could say, we have the first green building in the UK, like Milan or Singapore, for example.
So you're creating a Manhattan on the Solent, maybe?
Well, he's up. I haven't had it consulted on yet, but if you look at those concepts, Marley, sorry, I'm being a bit flippant, but if you look at those concepts, what a great thing for a city to see. And why couldn't we do that? Of course, we've got to go through planning process and we've got to consult with people. We need to work with people. But what stops us from long-term vision drives opportunity, doesn't it? And that's what we're trying to put in place now. And density and massing is key to that. So absolutely, to your audience in the development sector, we're looking at that. We want to encourage higher, more dense. We all know from a financial point of view, the better quality units that can go in and the more of them. We're not going to compromise on quality, but the more units that can go in and that can be achieved, and the more mixed use and the more financial outcome that comes for the private sector, the more the public sector and the public realm and everyone else gets. So it's win-win opportunity without compromising one's boundaries, of course, that we're looking for. And we've been having those sorts of conversations with planning applications that are in the pipeline or been approved in the last 8 weeks.
Okay, and in terms of, all of this obviously will take lots of investment, and all the areas in the wider region are looking for investment as well. So in terms of, we have Portsmouth to the east, there's BCP down the road to the west, and all the other places that will be looking for the same type of investment if they can. So do you think it's in terms of helping the region, but the city in particular forward the most? Are you looking for a cooperation model, or do you think now there's always going to be competition?
Very good question. So I believe in collaborative competition. So if you drill this down, so I've been on several calls with our leaders of neighbouring authorities, Eastleigh, New Forest, Isle of Wight, Portsmouth, BCP, Hampshire, Fareham. If you, like any business, rarely do two businesses compete, or any organisations, on the same thing. And if we drill ourselves down as Southampton, we're really good at some things. BCP, Bournemouth, Christchurch, Poor area, are really good at some things. Portsmouth are really good at some things. Winchester are really good at some things. And through our City of Culture bid, what we're really doing is going, we're the driving engine here, but we can put a complementary package together. Freeport is a classic example, sits in Southampton a lot, but straddles multiple local authorities and areas. And two ports, Portsmouth and us, who have different focuses. So I actually think, and I've said this to people, if we row out of being from the South Coast for a minute and we're in the subcontinent or in North America, we're a suburb of London, aren't we? South Coast, on a map. That's like, and if someone says we want to invest in Southampton on the map and we drill it down and what they really mean is Fareham or Portsmouth or the Isle of Wight, that's win-win for all of us. We want to take ourselves onto that map, but equally we want it to gain for everyone, and complementary gain, because I do believe that we all offer something a bit different, but collectively we've got a strong voice that we can champion both to UK government and from an investment infrastructural point of view, but also to the world around, wow, look at this South Coast opportunity. And we're a huge bundle of people, we've got massive economic strength along the South Coast engine. So those are the conversations we're having. Now, of course, we kind of see ourselves as a little bit of a vanguard engine in the middle of it all, but I think we're building a good working relationships with our partners to be able to drive that and then complement one another and sing this narrative, which I think is win-win for everyone.
And in terms of the government's role in all this, how do you feel about the government's levelling up agenda? And are you one of those that feels, well, all the government's investment is going north?
Yeah, so levelling up has got lots of different ideas and concepts to lots of different people. In my mind, what it means is that we can level up the opportunity to everybody. So we want to create a city of opportunity where people flourish. Our job is to create that environment for that to happen. You can have all the money poured in from government in the world. If you don't create a place where in hearts and minds this works, it's not going to happen. So I'm also not one of these that spends much time going, he or she over there's got that and we haven't got anything. It's just, I can't be bothered with it. So I spend my time on what do we want to do and go do that. I think that the Levelling Up agenda is a great opportunity for everyone in the UK. I would say we have a natural opportunity there in the south because our demographics are similar to northern cities, which means we have an appeal. We have some excellent MPs who, we no doubt I will continue with, and we are already knocking on their doors, just reminding them, and they're already on this anyway, to carry on knocking on the Treasury and everyone else, say, look, we are here, we'll have any money you're throwing at us, thank you. But I think it's important that, like anything, we're bidding for government money. We need to show that we can deliver with what we've got, and we need to exemplify what can be done using what we've got, and then leverage more, not just keep going, give me more, give me more, give me more, because anyone can do that. So our narrative really is about using Levelling Up, of course, to attract government and international stroke other partners' money, but it's also to go, what can we do in our own city with our own people and our own partners in the geography to get stuff done? And I think it's fair to say people like backing successful horses, don't they? Success breeds success. So if we can keep being successful, we enhance our chance of being more successful, and that's the narrative we're working to.
Okay, I was just going through a question that I've received about the when we were talking about increasing density and maybe having mixed-use buildings in the city centre rather than just pure residential. There's a question here about what could that mean for parking standards? Is there an opportunity to look at those perhaps?
Yeah, so I think if we look at the city centre generally, less and less people are owning a car. And that's been incremental for some number of years, and I suspect, I can't prove it, but the COVID situation in terms of flexible working will have accelerated that trend. So what we're looking at is if we're building mixed-use communities in the city centre, yes, car provision, parking provision is key, but actually this mass transit scheme has got to work much more effectively. So that is part of it. We probably will end up reviewing the parking standards, but our primary objective is to review these density and height standards and then mix that in as we go along. So we'll be a little bit led by the feedback that we get. We understand completely in the city centre we want great quality residential properties, but we also want good open space, public realm, parks, and the well-being impact of our parks, and the development of Mayflower Park as a world-class waterfront, as well as Western Shore, developing the common. We've got an investment plan coming for the golf course on the avenue, and we're reviewing a plan for the sports centre as well. So, really those, and the Mayfield Park with the bowling green, these really great assets that we've got, and we've had for centuries, or a couple of centuries at least, bring them up and invest in those so that, yes, we've got density, but we've got places for people to use in the public realm that's really good quality.
So what does that look like? What do you do with these open spaces? What does the investment entail?
So it's some basic stuff. It's like cutting the grass a bit more frequently, making them a bit more colourful. So we're looking at, on our main routes coming into the city, how we can plant more colourful plants. We've got more the proper wildflower areas, not the council's excuse of we're not going to cut the grass and call it wildflower. So proper wildflowers sowing in areas, and then in the public spaces in the parks, literally city centre stroke these other district centres, making sure they're actually usable. So if they look nice and they're well maintained, the benches are good quality, they can be used more frequently. One of the major things is public toilets. There are very few public toilets in Southampton anywhere, so we're reviewing that situation to make sure the parks can be used. Kiosks, open spaces. We've got great, beautiful walls. How could we use those in the city centre to build new public realm and have pop-up food places and cultural offerings? Let's just bring this place to life. Let's just take all these jewels and actually let them, light them up. rather than sort of leaving them in the background and building in front of them. So yeah, those are the sorts of things we're going to. They're not radical ideas, but they're literally fed from a lot of people just going, we just want to feel connected back to our city.
Yeah, and that quality of the public realm is something that helps that whole narrative and you know, the feel that a place has, basically. So I see that, yeah. So, and in terms of, is a question about, so you already said that you manage, was it 16,000 council stock? Yeah. And are there any plans for a arm's length council-owned housing company, like your fellow councillors in Eastleigh and Portsmouth, for example, have done?
Yeah, so Eastleigh and Portsmouth don't own their own stock. So most of them, they did asset transfers, if I remember correctly. So their stock's owned by housing associations. So to build new stock, they have to do arm's length. We inherited a programme from previous Labour administration of building council-owned properties that then sit within the council stock. We're continuing with some of that, and then we're reviewing future sites. So we weren't really keen on knocking an entire estate down and then rebuilding it with the council owning all the assets. In our opinion, good practice nowadays is having a mixed economy of tenures and landowners in a site so that you can have good mix. All those properties are currently owned, when once built, will be owned by the council wholly through our housing revenue account. In terms of new delivery models, housing arm's length company, that might be an option. We are so on this journey to 2040 of how many units we want to build and need to build. We're going to work backwards on where does the public need to be involved as a landowner, stroke developer. Where do we need to do X, Y, Z, and what value are we bringing that nobody else can bring? And then when we know what value we need to bring, we'll look at what the mechanisms for delivery are. So we're trying to be as pragmatic as possible, and one of those solutions may well be an arm's length housing company, but we haven't got a policy position currently, and we're at the what's our need basis rather than what's the delivery mechanism basis. But we're open to those discussions, and we'll indeed follow them at the right time.
Okay, and there's also a question here about affordable housing in terms of, well, affordable is then, yeah, basically an 80% of the market value, but you know, for lots of people that isn't necessarily affordable. So affordability is an issue in terms of housing, also in Southampton. What are your ideas for affordable housing?
Yeah, so the challenge with affordable is that, as rightly said, it's 80% of market value rent or market rent. Now, you know, take some easy numbers. If a 3-bedroom house is £1,000 in the market, private market, it's £800 a month in affordable, which is what housing associations and public partners will build to, and some private developers, I suppose, as well. The council can build social rent housing, which comes in at 60% of market rent, i.e. 600 out of 1,000 a month. So we're looking at where we can add value, i.e. there is a need for people to have social rent rather than affordable rent or market rent, then that's where we will look to try and see if we can fill the gap. But we need to understand what that is at the moment. There's a bit of data, but there's not a massive amount. So as part of this housing needs assessment, we should be able to identify, you know, what is the need and then what is the best approach to delivering that. And if the council is the best approach to delivering that, then we will look to do that. The one air of caution about the council building is we're a significantly expensive developer. So, you know, our cost of build is much higher for some reason, or has been previously on the numbers we've looked at, than other public or private providers. And of course, the people that pay for that are the tenants, because they pay for it back through their rent over a 30-year business plan. So it's okay saying, oh, it looks better for the council to develop it on paper. When you look at the long-term cost to the tenant, it actually can be more expensive because the unit costs are more expensive. So those are the things we've got to get our head around. We're not anti-delivering one or another. We just want to make sure it's proper value for the people we're looking after. And of course, the people who are in the greatest need are those at the greatest risk of those prices having to keep going up. And the council has had a tendency of increasing its rent and service charges every year for our most vulnerable tenants. something that we're very much against and won't be pursuing anymore. So, where we add value, we'll do it, but we want to make sure that we're not pretending we're adding value and actually doing it properly.
Yeah, thank you for that. And now, can we move to retail for a little bit in terms of the revitalization of the high street that is necessary just throughout? We see that everywhere. Of course, Southampton is doing things in terms of the Bargate shopping centre got through planning recently, but that will potentially take a little bit before that is there. So what are the council's plans in terms of boosting retail in the city?
Yeah, this is the challenge that all local authorities face, isn't it? And I think if we look at part of the challenge for us is that we've got a massive city centre space that's not very dense and not many people live here. So if we go back to that point about, and I totally understand it, people going, you're encouraging people to drive. Let me tell you exactly why I'm encouraging people to drive. Not enough people live in this city centre to get here, and those that do come here mainly come by their car. So most of the jobs that are supported in this city centre retail are supported by people coming in their car to our city centre. And there is absolutely no way I'm going to turn around to those people and go, don't come here anymore if you drive in your car, because what that will mean with not enough people living here is those retail premises just collapse off a cliff. So there are several solutions. Marlies. One of them is we've got to build more resi in the city centre. Density above, these mixed use, absolutely. More above the shopping and mixed use developments. Of course, that's going to take time. The second thing that we've done, the first thing that we've done then to help that is to scrap evening and parking charges and Sunday parking charges to go, if you want to come here, you drive your car, we're absolutely fine with that. Of course, we prefer you use another form, but if you can't bring the car, that's fine. To try and help some of these businesses keep going. It's only a small gesture, but it's something that we can do immediately. So it's done and it's in play to help retail. And then, of course, that will help protect some of those 7,800 people at the end of May that were still on furlough, coming back to a form of, they're mainly hospitality, leisure, retail jobs that they're coming back to. So we want to try and protect as many of those as possible, whilst we stimulate, as the private and public sector, new jobs and investment. So hopefully the curve doesn't lower too much as the curve is rising. And there will be a crossover, but we're trying to do everything we can. We're also we've got Transforming Cities Fund money, which is transport money from the government that has to be spent by March 2023. Excuse me. What we're looking at is how do we use those funds to regenerate our high street, the public realm offering, our investment in the vaults and in our heritage assets, open those up, create tourist attractions, staycation, clean up the district centres and the city centre, we need people spending money, and we know that the economy could be on a bit of a boom for a period of time as we come out of this. We need them spending money here. So we can have the longer term objectives, build more resi, condense some of the retail, transfer the usages to allow new planning permissions, etc. But right now, as in July the 12th, 2021, and the next 3 months, 6 months, we've got to get activity moving, and that's what Get Southampton Moving is about, to hold some of those jobs as we transition. So longer term, it is about planning use class, building and redeveloping, encouraging people here, investing in the City of Culture bid. We just put in a lot of capital, £6, £7, £8 million into that. Plus there'll be more capital investment, and there's a revenue cost as well. But we need to keep on that journey of banging brand Southampton as well. So supporting retail means having more people living here. It also means using some of the retail that's shut down to put in new use classes that stimulate, and it means that we do everything we can to regenerate our high street in the public physical realm to make sure that more tables and chair spaces, for example, on the high street. The pedestrianisation scheme that's worked in Carlton Place at the top of the city has been taking some road space, shutting it off. Okay, we've all disagreed a little bit on Bedford Place, but on the Carlton Place area, it's been cordoned off. We now want to invest in that, improve the public realm, work with the bid, our partners, make the street scene really nice, tackle some of the antisocial behaviour, transfer that down to Oxford Street, improve that Oxford Street's flourished, which is great during this situation, it looks great. How do we build on that? How do we market all of that as part of Brand Southampton and go, come here to do these things? So short term, medium term, long term, but we're getting cracking straight away, and equally ideas from public and private sector partners on how we do some of those things.
Thank you. And there is here a question again about the Freeport and your ambitions for that. And could you, when you answer that, could you make that link with the City of Culture bit that you have mentioned before again? Because I think that's a really interesting connection that you make there.
Yeah, sure. So part of the Freeport piece right now, obviously the government, we were a Freeport 10, 12 years ago, and it meant something, of course, to those that knew about it, but to most of us, it didn't mean anything in the way that it does now. In the post-Brexit world and in post-pandemic world, the Freeport is an opportunity to open ourselves on a map where people might go, oh, we could go there because of tax reasons or customs reasons or investment reasons. That's sort of the linchpin. But they could also, depending on where they want to invest in the UK or Europe, if they're looking on a wider global scale, we could go to Bristol, or we could go to the north, or we could go somewhere else. What gives us the real value is we're a deep sea international trading port, gateway to UK PLC, and we're building cultural connections with, and we're working on this in a minute, international partnerships with key cities around the world to go, let's understand one another's cultures, and through talking to one another and having events and food and dance and everything else that comes with it, and culture, people build closer relationships, and from the closer relationships come discussion, more discussion and opportunity breeds. So on a high level business opportunity, City of Culture puts us on the map, not just being a free port, but being a place of interest to people and of a journey of exploring thousands of years of history as a port. So we've got the technical piece of a free port, plus we've got a story to tell about the people in this city and why it matters to them. But I think that if we then row back on a micro level to people, most people in the city don't really connect very well with the water. It's like, oh, the port's over there. And so, working with British Marine on the boat show, having events on the water all year round, embracing the water into our communities, showing what sport on the water can do, opening up Mayflower Park, doing something with Western Shore. What a beautiful shoreline we've got. And everyone goes, we've got no access to the water. We have, it's just we're not perhaps using it. But during COVID, it's been hugely used. So how do we reopen that? So the Freeport and City of Culture and our connection to the water and marine and a port and all the history that comes with that is all part of that story. And then we unlock that in people's lives by going, this is what our city does. This is what we've done for thousands, hundreds of years, into 1,000 and a few bit years. And the story and the narrative creates more interest than just we're a free port, which matters to people, but we can now make it matter to a lot more people.
And in terms of bring a bit more liveliness into the centre and that, what role does leisure have to play?
Yeah. Well, leisure, sport, culture, heritage are key. Absolutely. So our leisure offer, you will hear people say, where's Southampton's Lido? Where is Southampton's ice rink? Where is Southampton's this? Where is Southampton's that we all used to have? Where is Southampton's Balloon Festival? Where is all these things that we used to do? So, I can't commit to anything, but what I can commit to is we're having those conversations with people to go, right, how do we put those leisure facilities back in our city? Now, to do that, we're all, we're amongst friends here in terms of business. We know if we want something from you on a development, you want something from us, which is fine. That's where the height and density comes in. Can we build greater units, greater number of good quality units? And then as a local authority or as a city, we want X, Y, Z on the same site, for example. So those are the sorts of, let's just be ambitious. Let's stop going, the document says we can do A. Let's think about what we want to do and work backwards. And leisure is massively important for that, but not leisure in the way that it was 10 years ago, the gym, snow domes and ice rinks and skiing and all these different things have a new flavour now. How do we embrace those into our city, combine them with culture, The Keys is right next door to our American War and all of our heritage assets. Right, literally next door. So leisure is crucial, but leisure in the districts as well as the city centre.
And about being brave and ambitious and getting things done. How about the Mayflower Quarter? I mean, what are we in terms of when do you anticipate that there will be something there, built, done, and welcoming and doing its bit for the city?
Sure. So we've got a briefing this week or next week on all of the detail of the Mayflower Quarter to understand what's currently in it from the previous thinking, the previous administration, and to understand what it looks like. So I can't specifically answer your question as to when what's in it, because I actually don't know what's in it yet, because I haven't seen it, will be coming forward. But what I can give you some outline on, and then we will be coming to the market, your clients and other interested parties over the coming months, well, weeks and months. Take Mayflower Park, we will be delivering the Spitfire Memorial into the water. There's a massive public investment. We have money from government. We're putting money of our own in a great Angel of the North size monument into the water, celebrating Southampton's heritage and past. That I can tell you we're doing, and we've given an objective of doing that by May, or having spade in the ground by May 2023. So we're working on that plan, and we're also working on a shorter term plan for Mayflower Park, whilst the wider Mayflower Quarter development is taken in. But we will know in the next couple of weeks what that looks like to then go out to the market. Of course, the Toys R Us conversations are in the Mayflower Quarter, but they're already advanced, and the Leisure World site is in the Mayflower Quarter, but planning has already advanced. So those sites we have more of a feel on. But there were lots of high-level numbers of commercial usage, retail usage numbers in the Mayflower Quarter, and have been for the last 15 years that has been on the table in some way, shape or form. We need to review those in light of COVID and the city's moving situation and what it looks like. And that's what we'll do with ourselves internally and then with partners as well. But it is the greatest urban regeneration opportunity, I think, anywhere in the UK. And it's going to span the next 20, 25 years, I'd imagine. So what a great opportunity that we're coming in at the forefront to go high level, this is where we want to go. Let's crack on and do it.
Great. So, and in terms of the local plan, are there some comments you'd like to make about the local plan and the focus it has? Any directions that you'd like to take through planning policy?
Yeah. So as I say, we're currently going through the local plan. We've been a bit delayed on the local plan process as a council. So that's now on our table to continue the work with. I think that the key bit for us is about being bolder and ambitious, as you've heard me say, in density and height, in city design standards as well. We want things that are going to last a sense of time. So yes, we want density, but we want good quality. We're looking at how buildings age. We've all seen buildings 5 years after development, and you look at them and you go, ooh, that does not look good at all. Those next door to great heritage assets or cities' key things are not what we want. So we're looking at how we could build that in, but we're very much open to, we know where we want to take the city. What does that look like in the local plan policy? Sustainability standards, building in modern methods of construction, those sorts of things will be coming in as well, I think. But we need to make sure that we're on a journey and we're not trying to achieve everything tomorrow, because the journey to net carbon zero is to 2050, and it will accelerate as we get closer, but we don't know all the answers right now to how we get there. And what we don't want to do is be true ambitious in going, we must have all these standards when nobody else is and nobody knows how to deliver them. We've always been at the forefront of sustainability as a city, and we see the challenge of the climate crisis as the greatest opportunity for Southampton, through our universities, through National Oceanography Centre, for businesses, for ourselves, to be right at the forefront again, gateway to the world, leading the world. They're pioneering. So yeah, I would watch this space for the local plan review, but a lot of the things I talked about will be in there, and Jeremy Moulton, who's my deputy and the cabinet member for growth, will be leading on that work. But as we emerge on that process, what we don't want to do is wait for the local plan to be written for things to start happening. So we're saying to people, look, be bold, be ambitious, give us some ideas, think in the art of the possible. And as we merge into the new planning policy, let's try and get stuff in train now, so we're not waiting till the official documents change.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I think that's all we have time for today. But Councillor Fitzhenry, thank you so much for your time, and you clearly have a great passion for this beautiful city. So we are keen to see how it moves forward, and we wish you, of course, all the best and the best of luck with realizing all that. And thank you to our attendees as well. Our webinar today is part of a wider series of webinars that we undertake with leaders who so passionately talk about their areas, and we hope you will be joining us in the next ones. Keep an eye on our website, creative.co.uk, and our LinkedIn page, social media. And for now, thank you very much and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Marley. It's good to see everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.